I want to talk a little bit about how the Passover foreshadows the Messiah. Because we can do all this ritual and we can do all this ceremony, but if the Messiah is not in it, it's almost as if it's been in vain, right? And you see, the Passover is about God's deliverance of his people from Egypt. But actually in Hebrew, Egypt means Mitzrayim. The Hebrew word is Mitzrayim, and the meaning of that can be boundaries. And we know that before we come to Yeshua, we are being held captive in the kingdom of darkness, right? We are being held captive to do the will of Satan. And in a way, we are enslaved. The book of Romans talks about this, how we are in slavery. So we can relate to this, that we are spiritually all in slavery until the Lord sets us free. And then we are set free from sin, and we are now slaves to righteousness. And the verse Romans 6:14 says, "For sin shall not be your master, for you are not under the law, but under grace." And so Pharaoh was the one that was oppressing Israel. But Satan is the one who oppresses us. And just as God sent a deliverer to set the people of Israel free, to serve him, God sets us free so that we can serve him. He sets us free. It says that he has delivered us from the kingdom of darkness and transfers us into the kingdom of his Son. I also believe that the Lord sets us free from our own personal Mitzrayim, our own personal place of limitations and boundaries, that we have been bound by things in our past, by preconceived notions about who we are and what we can and cannot do. That's our Mitzrayim. It keeps us in this limited place. But the Lord can set us free so that we break out of Egypt. We break out of that Mitzrayim, that limited place, so that we can do more for the Lord. So there's such a beautiful imagery in this. And Passover is such a beautiful example of our salvation by grace, that we are saved by the blood of the Lamb and by no other way. Amen? Let's keep going through after the wash. Next we have the parsley. And see, these just help keep me on track, because you know by now how I can ramble. So because we want to go through the Seder, this is going to help to keep me on track. Now this parsley, we're going through the elements of the Seder, and it represents life. The greens, it represents life, and Passover takes place in the spring, and all the buds and the blossoms are coming out on the trees, and so it represents new life. And we know that Yeshua gave us new life. It says we are no longer that old creation, but he has made us a new creature. He has made us new. And I think you can all relate to that. I'm sure that you are not the people that you were before you knew the Lord. And so this represents the life that Yeshua gives us. It's dipped into the salt water and eaten at this time of the Seder. Now, why is it dipped into the salt water? Well, this represents life, and the salt in the water represents tears. And we know that life is full of tears. This life is full of tears. We saw some of those tears tonight. And we know that there are many people who have situations in their lives that cause them pain and cause them sorrow. And so when we dip this into the salt water and eat it, we remember the tears of the Israelite slaves and how they cried out to God, and they cried and they cried and they cried out to him until finally he could endure their misery no longer, and he sent the deliverer to rescue them. And God sees our tears, There's a verse in one of the Psalms that says that he keeps our tears in a bottle. And so our tears are not in vain. He sees them, and he's afflicted in our affliction. And he knows our pain. He knows where we are. So when we partake of the parsley in the salt water, we remember that. We remember the tears, and we also remember that one day we're going to be in a better place where there are no more tears. There's no more pain, no more sorrow, no more death. All tears and all sorrow and sighing will have passed away and will not be remembered. So we look forward to that day. This parsley also represents the hyssop, which was dipped into the blood and put on the doorposts. It was dipped into the blood of the lamb and put on the doorpost of the homes. So that's the parsley. Okay, next, please. I'm just going to keep going. Next. Okay, now this is about children. It's called Manishtana. And it's all about the fact that these are 4 questions that the children traditionally sing. It's usually supposed to be the youngest one. The youngest child who knows it will stand up in front of everybody. The Seder is usually a family. It's usually a family thing with the patriarch at the head officiating. And the mother scurrying around with the food and all of that with the guests. And anyone who is hungry is to be invited to come and eat. And so there's usually lots of strangers and lots of different people at the Seder table. The Jewish people seek out anybody in the synagogues or anybody that looks like, I don't know that person, or that person seems alone, or they try and think of the people who might be alone. And it's a tradition, even in most synagogues, that they have a hospitality, they have somebody that's actually in charge of making sure that everybody has a Passover Seder to go to. And that is a beautiful tradition. And it says that when we invite people to a dinner, we're not supposed to invite all those that we like and those who are rich, but we're supposed to invite those people that can never really invite us back or never pay us back. And the Lord repays us for that. And so we're supposed to announce, let all who are hungry come and eat with us. And you know, Yeshua gave that invitation for no cost. He said he is the living bread, lechem chayim. He was born in the house of bread, Beit Lechem, Bethlehem. Bethlehem in Hebrew is Beit Lechem, and Beit is house, Lechem is bread. So he was born in the house of bread, and he is the living bread. And he says, let all who are hungry come and eat. So we extend that invitation, and you extended that invitation to all who are hungry. So I know that every one of you is hungry for God. Whoever you are, from wherever you came from, you are hungry for God. And that's why you're here. May you be filled tonight. The child sings like this, and I have to tell you how much the Lord has made me into a new creation. Because when I was a little girl, I was so shy that I wouldn't talk to anybody. I think they actually thought I had some kind of a problem, because I just didn't talk to people. And I would just sit in my room, and I didn't have friends, too many. And if anybody came over to the house, I'd ran to my room and close the door because I was just so afraid of people. And what happened was at a Passover Seder, I was the youngest one at about 12 years. I was already about 12 years old, but I was the youngest one that knew how to sing this. And so my father asked me to get up and sing this in front of just the guests that were there. And the child is asking, why is this night different than all the other nights? In other words, why are we doing this? In this chapter in Exodus, it says, when your children ask you, then answer them like this. So this represents the way that we are supposed to involve our children in our spiritual lives.